One of my favorite things about cartoons is that they can be extremely silly and funny, but then twist the story into something heartbreaking. This works so much better with animation than live action as a whole because animation puts you in a fantasy mindset. In many ways, when you watch cartoons, you are role-playing even as a quiet viewer, as you are accepting a lot more fantasy rules than if you were to watch real humans acting in a movie or show. In a show like Helluva, these dramatic turnaround moments are like a glimpse behind the game, a look into the real pain that the people playing are going through, an outlet to explore not just the real-life situations that the writers have been through in some way or another, but a way to explore the general human pain we all feel in relationships using these fantasy concepts. Helluva opened with the premise of a royal Goetia demon, Stolas, forcing a low-level imp, Blitz, into a monthly arrangement of adult relations in exchange for a magical grimoire that allows Blitz to go up to Earth to assassinate humans for his business. This arrangement was more of a comedic version of the dynamic established in Hazbin Hotel, which had a high-level overlord, Valentino, forcing one of the main characters, Angel Dust, into a sexual relationship in exchange for Angel Dust continuing work in the adult film industry, as well as for additional PCP, which Angel is addicted to. This show is set to paint Valentino in a much more negative light than Stolas, as while the premise is somewhat similar, they are exploring two very different but very real dynamics. Stolas is an elite, he is pushing Blitz into something he really doesn't want, and doing it with a charming smile doesn't make it more okay than what Valentino does with Angel. Sometimes it can be hard to compare the dynamics of the two couples because of just how differently we treat Stolas. The real difference at the end of the day for the casual viewer is that Valentino seems to do what he does with an evil sense to him, and Stolas at the end of the day does not. We tend to be forgiving of a lot of the same behaviors in someone who seems to genuinely mean well, and that is logical. If people mean well, we can fix them, and the story of a show is generally about how the characters fix themselves and become the better versions of themselves. In Hazbin Hotel, we expect this to be about how Angel rises above Valentino and eventually escapes him, because Valentino shows a pleasure in inflicting his desires onto Angel, indicating that he can't be fixed, nor do we want him to be. Stolas meanwhile shows nervousness and fear, using what he has to just barely maintain his relationship with Blitz so that he can slowly invite Blitz to more and more parts of his life in an attempt to have a real relationship develop. Unfortunately, a lot of bad faith reviews over the last decade have trained people to attack writers for exploring any themes or ideas of a serious nature at all, because no matter which way you go about it, those people will always rationalize that the worst possible interpretation of the story that they can come up with is the one that the majority of the audience will walk away with, the kind of people who argue that the story of Stolas and Blitz will somehow encourage people to be more toxic and take advantage of each other in real life. But most people just understand the concept of the story, that Stolas shouldn't be forcing Blitz into this dynamic, but that of course is part of what Stolas is learning along the way. And of course, it is something of a two-way street, as while Blitz is undoubtedly being taken advantage of here, he's doing his best to take advantage of Stolas too, and has a history of this sort of behavior. This doesn't justify Stolas' behavior, but instead it makes for a fun story to explore both realistic characters in, with there being talks from Vivzy Pop and Brandon Rogers about how their own experiences and the experiences of those around them influence the dynamic. For Season 1, the dynamic was pretty simple. Stolas and Blitz slept together once a month on the night of the full moon so that Stolas can perform some duties, and then Blitz gets the book back for the rest of the month to do his work. Over the season, Stolas tries to rope Blitz in with various side quests to give them time together. Stolas overindulges in that time together, acting like a cutesy couple, and really making Blitz hate it both in Lululand and the Wrath Ring. It's in the Wrath Ring that this issue is acknowledged by Blitz when Stryker goes on his unhinged rant about toppling over all the sexy overlords that managed to conquer Hell. Blitz realizes that he's being taken advantage of in so many ways, and that even in his attempts to escape working for some big overlord by doing his own missions on Earth, he managed to become the rent boy to an overlord instead. In the finale, Asmodeus and Fizzaroli really bring home some of the major issues with their dynamic. Blitzo has managed to sort of date upwards, getting with Veroska before having this arrangement with Stolas, but it made him realize why that is. Blitz was essentially the dirty, degrading thing that you do to darken your soul. The way Asmodeus put it, Blitz was the lowest of choices Stolas could have thrown away his marriage on, giving his life for a thrust, as he explains in a song. Now, Stolas has a complex backstory that makes this interpretation not really true, even if it seems that way from the outside, but it would explain why Blitz ended up feeling so hurt, particularly by the dynamic he's in, even if it's not the way that Stolas himself really views Blitz. Stolas has a classic gay psychology from a distant father figure, one of the many possible influences on this type of sexuality, but it is one complex piece to a bigger puzzle of his character. As a child, Stolas got a lot of his care from imp servants and comfort from his imp stuffed animal. With no mother in the picture and the father so absent, Stolas was prepped to fall in love with the right imp when he saw him, and that's exactly what happened when Blitz swung by in his circus act. Stolas wanted Blitz for the day, and Paimon was able to purchase this opportunity for him. This is likely an extreme example of this in Stolas' past, but it was probably very common for Paimon to throw money around in order to get certain services or guides or what have you at a moment's notice, establishing the idea in Stolas' head that this is a normal way to interact with people and not a negative way to get their attention. Stolas grew up with this probably being the normal way people entered his life, which is through payment. Outside of the Guisha family, he'd have no real reason to just go out and meet different demons, so the only way he knows how to interact with them is through services they provide, whether it's a legitimate business or just paying a stranger for something they happen to be able to do for you at that time. Now, the most twisted layer of the romance of Blitz and Stolas is the fact that Stolas is an elite royal demon and Blitz is an imp who will live a much shorter life, assuming Stolas doesn't get murdered first. Stolas' life is so long that their relationship will just be a blip on Stolas' radar thousands of years after Blitz has died. Now, Blitz has a natural desire to keep Stolas at arm's length, largely because Stolas is clingy, but as we saw in the recent episode, some part of Blitz has come to actually care about Stolas somewhere along the way here. This season has been a little confusing regarding where Blitz and Stolas stand, as we never got a follow-up to the episode 7 story, with episode 8 being delayed. But the text messages in the most recent episode between Stolas and Blitz fill in a lot of the details. After Blitz dropped off Stolas from their night at Ozzy, Stolas texted Blitz quite a bit, trying to play nice and give Blitz space, but also putting it out there that he still wants to see Blitz. They seem to have talked about their plans to get together, with Stolas trying to give Blitz various outs to just relax or even skip it altogether. But their arrangement still seems to be going on some level, with that night really just being its own blunder. They've definitely been distant since then, but still seem to be maintaining that the arrangement is still a thing. Then, of course, Stryker kidnapped Stolas and injured him using angelic weapons, one of the only things capable of killing a demon like Stolas and inflicting real pain on him. Until then, Blitz basically assumed that Stolas felt no real pain, and even when Blitz was trying to steal the grimoire and get away, the pain he tried to inflict on Stolas was only treated as pleasure. As a semi-immortal being, Stolas may feel pain, but it's such a non-issue that he can easily associate it with pleasure. It doesn't hurt him. It should essentially just be a tickle to let him know that his body is being attacked, but not that he's in real danger because of his great power. Because of this, Blitz leaned into this aspect of their sexual play, with there being a strong focus on pain and torture. Blitz has really unleashed on Stolas and had him not even be offended, and on some level, this seems to have comforted Blitz. Blitz is generally the needier person in any dynamic, being so invasive into other people's lives that they have to push him away. With Stolas, it is the opposite. Stolas is the clingy one, and Blitz tries to push away, but if Stolas had been less clingy, I think Blitz would have chased him the way he chases everyone else. At the end of the day, Blitz seems to want to always be pushing the envelope, always pushing someone away, because what he gets the most comfort in is knowing that someone won't run away no matter how awful he is to them. With Stolas, he gets a literal punching bag and gets to be emotionally and verbally mean. He gets to feel wanted and chased after, and no matter how mean Blitz gets to be, Stolas can just handle it. That is, until Blitz saw that Stolas was so hurt he could have died and actually needed time to recover in the hospital. This wasn't just making Blitz realize that he could lose Stolas physically, but that he could potentially lose him emotionally as well, that if he wasn't careful, something he says will pierce Stolas' heart like an angelic weapon, and this person who has put up with literally every evil thing Blitz has felt like doing would no longer want him in his life. It wasn't enough to make Blitz go and visit Stolas at the hospital, but it was enough to make Blitz send him a text message asking Stolas to get better soon. And from here, who knows where this could go. Let me know your theories on what's next for them in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time.